Good morning. Welcome to Monday Morning with Tanie. This is a space where we talk about grief and mourning, and in all types of forms, affecting all types of people, all kinds of losses. I usually work mostly with loss through death. This series is also talking about other losses, kind of a more global discussion on loss and how we don't deal with it very well in our society, and how to deal with it in our society going forward. So I am grateful to you for being here, whether you're watching live or in the replay. If you are live, please let me know. I want to make sure that you can hear me for first thing. We are working on a new series. This is the second day of that series. We're basing it on Dr. Alan Wolfelt's book, Living in the Shadow of the Ghosts of Grief, Step into the Light. And it's reconciling old losses and opening the door to infinite joy and love. I am a huge fan of Dr. Alan Wolfelt. I recommend all of his books. His courses are fantastic. I was able to go to a course of his in Colorado, close to his Center for Loss and Transition, and take the child and adolescent grief training. It was amazing. He embodies hospitality, and hospitality is so important when you're working with grief and mourning. Hospitality is making a welcome, warm, safe, comfortable space to talk about your loved ones, talk about the emotions around loss and grief. It's a space to open up and feel safe to mourn. Yeah, so I'm obviously a fan. I don't know if I mentioned, I'm Tanie Reed Walker. Usually I mention that right away. I am a social worker currently working as a counselor with FCSS, Barons Rico Warner FCSS in rural southern Alberta, Canada. I have been counseling for over 12 years and with the agency for longer than that. I love. I love people, and I really enjoy and am honored to be able to work with people who are grieving, because I think it's a time when people really need support, and I feel like our society is not so good at it. And I'm hoping that one video at a time and one person at a time, we're helping change that and create a more compassionate, kind world. Okay. Today is part 2. Today is why we carry grief instead of mourn it. And there are 9 points in here. Some of the points may be a little touchy for some people. I'll tread as carefully and gently as I possibly can. I don't profess to be an expert on anything. I know a few things. I have some experiences. You've had experiences. Everyone has their experiences. So if there's anything in here that doesn't resonate for you, please throw it away. And if there's anything that does, take it and keep it and use it. I say that with everything you hear and learn. Everything that comes out of somebody else's mouth is being interpreted by that person, with that person's life experience and their education and their knowledge and all of those things. So whenever you hear something, if it resonates for you, it is for you. If it doesn't, let it go. And especially in our society right now, I'm finding people are finding things, if it doesn't resonate for them, they feel like they have to attack it. And we don't have to attack it. We can just let it go or walk by. So for example, if I'm walking through the mall, And there's 15 restaurants there, and there's one that has food that I think is really disgusting. I don't have to go up to them and yell at them and say, your food is disgusting. I can't believe you guys actually provide this for people. No, I just walk to the one that I want to be with, want to eat, and I just talk to those people and I enjoy the food after I get it. We do not need to attack what's not for us. We just need to walk by. I guess I'm feeling strongly about that today. This world needs so much more love. And when people are grieving, which I think most people are carrying some sort of grief. And in fact, my next video next week will be talking about that. Are you carrying unresolved grief? But let's get back to today. Why we carry grief instead of mourn it. I'll read the quote that Dr. Alan Wolfelt has at the beginning of the chapter. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. Remember, grief is the feelings and thoughts and images that we have inside us around loss. And mourning is bringing those out and kind of making them public, taking them out of us, expressing them in a way that just moves them out. And so this quote, it's from Acts of John, Gnostic scripture. So this quote is saying that if you hold all of those things in, it will destroy you. And we will talk about that. And if you let them out, it will save you. It will create newness in you. Hi, Charisma. Thank you for watching and letting me know you can hear me. So I've talked before, and if you're new, I'm going to do it again. Society is really good at inviting us to deny and repress our pain. Society doesn't like watching people hurt. They just want us to numb it. And it leads to all kinds of things. It can lead to numbing your pain through addictions, and addictions can look like all kinds of things. They can look like shopping. They can look like chemical dependence. They can look like gambling. They can look like social media. They can look like chronic. Oh my gosh, so many things. Dr. Gabor Mate, if you ever want to look at addictions, he is fantastic. And he was addicted to buying classical music. In fact, he was in a surgery, I believe, and he left to go get an album. And then he came back. That is some serious, serious numbing of emotions. And I'm not saying that to shame you. I'm saying that because it's what we've been taught. I grew up watching commercials my whole life, and I can guarantee you have too. And there's things everywhere that are bright and shiny and distracting to help us not feel pain. It also makes a lot of money when people are trying to numb their pain. So our society does a lot to do that. And then we're just raised that way. We're raised to think pain is bad. Take some medication. Take anything to get rid of that pain. And grief is a huge pain that we don't often understand or talk about. But it's felt in the same space in our brain as physical pain. It is so, so real. So real. So there's a lot of reasons why, and we're going to go through 9, that we have learned how to repress our pain. So the first one Dr. Alan Wolfelt talks about is family of origin modeling. So we learn how to deal with so many things and what to do as children and as teenagers. We learn from our parents and our grandparents and our cousins and from school and from the experiences that we have, what we're supposed to do in different situations. And what our parents did or didn't do with their grief experience and with our grief experience really has an impact on us. Again, I'm not blaming anyone. I've often pondered how we've come to this place where feelings are shut down, and I'm not 100% sure. I'd love to have conversations with people about that. Sometimes I wonder if it was the big world wars and people had to shut down their feelings to fight the wars, and then they came home and feelings were repressed because they were dangerous and scary. I don't know. That's me theorizing. I don't know. So if anybody wants to have a chat about that, give me a call, because I love to have discussions about how we got to this place. But the fact is we're at this place. So if you're a child who would lose something, so you've lost a toy, and you're really sad, and your parent helps you work your way through those sad feelings, and helps you grieve the loss of that toy, or that situation, or that pet, or anything, you're going to learn that it's okay to have that experience. It's okay to have those feelings, and how to handle them, how to be with them, how to express them as your losses get bigger as you get older. If you had a family that didn't like feelings, especially the ones that we think are negative feelings, and they ignored the fact that you had those feelings, or they're always quickly to replace the loss. So you have a goldfish and they're like, oh my goodness, I have to hurry up and buy a new goldfish for this child so they don't know the other one died, because I wouldn't want them to be sad. Oh no. That's actually a really good time to start teaching your child loss. And it's small to you. You know it's big to them, but that's okay. That's actually really awesome. Let them mourn the loss of that goldfish or whatever it is. And you can talk about it. Sometimes you might talk about it for years after. Remember my first goldfish? And that's what love does. It helps us remember and reminds us of something that we really cared about. So try not to insulate your children from losses. Losses are life. And as we learn to move through losses and how to feel them and express them, we can also help our children do that too. So this child that has learned losses will grow up being able to know, express, and normalize their feelings, and internalize the capacity to have empathy for herself and for others in the term of loss. I think one of the reasons why I was very interested in grief and loss when I became a social worker as an older adult is because I don't think that I knew how to do those things, about how to express my feelings and know that they were normal. And I had learned how to numb them and shut them away. And I saw how toxic that was, not only for people that I came in contact with, but for myself. And the more I learned to acknowledge my own losses, and I'm still doing it, I'm still working through it, and it's been over 16 years, the more I do that, the more I work through those, the more I realize I have empathy for myself, and I have way more empathy and expanded time and compassion for other people. And that's powerful. It's so powerful. People are so worth the time. And you're worth the time. Okay, let's continue on. So she's going to end up being able to face the challenges that come and to be kind to herself and integrate losses into her life. That's an open family. An open family is one that revels in, like, expressing emotion and learning how to deal with it. They aren't just crying all the time. It's not that kind of a family. It's a family that learns how to cry. Cry is good, but sometimes people think they go to the extreme and they think that this family is just going to cry like constantly. Expressing emotions isn't just crying. It's all of the feelings and all of the expressions. So by contrast, a child who has experienced a loss and is denied the opportunity to like feel and identify and understand their feelings because the adults around them don't think that there is a need for this and don't understand how to do it. Instead of learning about how to mourn, she's going to create defensiveness to prevent herself from being aware of these feelings. She may learn to project or displace her feelings onto others, or internalize them, resulting in low self-esteem and preventing her from finding deeper fulfillment and real intimacy in her life. So she might learn how to bully people, or think that people are just big whiners, and why are you so sad all the time, and just totally not understand other people. And then also think, what's wrong with me that I feel so bad, and just being unable to connect, because if you're trying to ignore one feeling, you're going to end up ignoring all of the feelings, and that's just going to create more and more pressure on oneself. It's very difficult. So the bigger, longer lasting wound of not feeling the initial wound, the initial loss, is so much more impactful. And it just, as each loss happens in life, it just compounds and compounds and compounds. And you can become at risk for depression, anxiety, difficulty with intimate relationships, addictive behaviors, and some other things that we'll probably be talking about next week. So number 2. Hi Matt, thanks for waving. The grief avoidance wounding process. So this process has 5 steps, and we'll just go through the 5 steps. So the first step is you experience a loss without parental or family recognition of your special needs to grieve and mourn. So we kind of talked about that. So the little one loses their fish, and nobody either completely preempt the grieving cycle by buying a new fish so they don't have to deal with it, or they lose the fish and they're like, whatever, it's just a fish, and ignore what the child is feeling. Number 2, they experience a lack of opportunity to integrate the resulting pain, hurt, and suffering. They grieve inside, but are not allowed or encouraged to mourn. So when it comes to grief, you can't stop the feelings very easily. Like, you can work on numbing them, but they're gonna come. And when you are not encouraged to move them out and to express them, they have nowhere to go. So they just kind of cycle in there. I always just imagine people getting like packed full of all of these little packets of grief inside them, so there's no room for anything else. Number 3 is they then protect themselves from repeated injury from future losses by creating defense mechanisms. So for myself, if I could share a small thing, I had a series of losses in my life. Pets, moving, there was a fire, and we lost all of my childhood stuff. And I just got to the point where it's like, I don't want any pets because it hurts. I don't really care about stuff because what's the point of stuff? You're just going to lose it. And I got really, really defensive. And unfortunately, when this happened to my children when they were young, they had a loss, and I was so numb to the emotional impact of loss of things that it wasn't until years later I was able to start to address this with them. Because in my mind, it's like, well, whatever, just buy new stuff. Because I had detached from my own emotions that way. It impacts people in a lot more ways than we even realize. So that's how I protected myself. I just didn't even care anymore about the things. But that protection made me less compassionate and have less empathy for other people with their losses. It was just like, what's wrong with you that you care about that? Number 4, they minimize, deny, or disconnect from the significance of carried grief. So you just carry on, and you can't figure out why life just seems to get heavier and heavier and heavier as you get full of these grief rocks inside you. And so then you end up living in the shadow of the ghosts of grief. So you're just always I guess we could have them as a cloud over you, so it's more a shadow of the ghosts. I just imagine it as rocks, and you're just like heavy and carried. So whether you're in the shadow of it and it's heavy, or it's inside you and it's heavy, it's really hard. So I sure would love to hear some people's perspectives sometime about what that would look like for them. It's always so interesting to reflect back once you learn something and say, oh, that's why I did that thing, and that's why I did that thing. And the reflecting back isn't to beat yourself or anybody else up. It's just to help you understand and incorporate new ways of moving forward. Because that's what this is about. It's about clearing those ghosts of grief and learning a new way. You don't know until you don't know. You don't know until you know. Okay, number 3. Fear of painful emotions. The opposite of embracing pain and allowing themselves to mourn is control. We want to control everything, and we certainly don't want to have pain. So we look at pain relievers, we look at pain management, pain control. We've been taught that these feelings, if we give them too much attention, then it's a sign of weakness, or, oh my lantern, we might break down and not be able to do all of the things that everybody thinks we should do. Do we really do the things that people think we should do well when we're holding all of this inside us? I don't think so. I think taking care of ourselves should be the highest priority. When you're feeling your best and have taken care of yourself emotionally and physically and mentally and spiritually and all the things, you ever notice how much easier life is? It's just easier to do things. So take the time. Take the time. You don't have to like grieve and mourn 24/7, but you do need to take the time to do it. We often look at these emotions as negative, as if they're inherently bad emotions to experience. And that just feeds our culture's attitude that these emotions should be denied or overcome. Overcome your grief. Really, these care eliciting emotions of grief are what alters compassionate companions that we have special needs, and we require support and comfort. So try not to be afraid of your painful emotions. They won't last forever. Human beings are full of so many emotions. I think last time I said that was 400 emotion words in the English dictionary. So, number 4, self-interest before community interest. So, this is because in our society we have a preoccupation for ourselves, and we try to exclude the community. We're told you can't depend on anyone else. You have to look out for number 1. You should be able to do it on your own. North Americans have really exemplified this. Like, rugged individualism is always so great. It's like the cowboy that rides off into the sun after he saves the day, and even though there's like a beautiful family that's waiting there for him to hang out, like, just gonna be rugged and go off to his next thing. Ugh. I don't know. That kind of storyline really annoys me now when I watch movies. For some, the goals of suffering and self-determination are the principal centerpieces of self-development. They think if they suffer and they just do everything on their own, that's their self-development. They're just like totally rocking this life. I often hear, well, there's no point in being sad about that. There's no point in feeling those feelings. It's not going to bring back what I lost. And the point isn't bringing back what you lost. The point is honoring what you lost and what that meant in your life, and honoring yourself. You need to feel those feelings because you're still here. You're still living. You're still experiencing life after whatever transition you've had. And you're worth that time. So those feelings are a guide to you. They're a guide to you as to what you need to do. Oh, and our society has been really good at kind of like whitewashing the funerals and all of the death processes and trying to erase grief and mourning. And ceremonies are intended to enact support systems. I think that's one of the reasons why COVID has been so hard. We can't have the same kind of ceremonies. But if you've watched, people have really figured out how to carry on ceremonies and do things. People have parades, they have online vigils, they post videos, they use social media to express themselves and garner that support. Human beings need that. It's so important. Number 5, bad theology. I am not a religious leader. I believe that all communities are really important. I also know that some communities, well, maybe not all important, I feel that community is very important. And I believe that faith is very important. And I believe that you need to use your own discernment when you're with and listening to somebody talk. And I spoke about that at the beginning of this video as well. Whatever hurts you in a way that doesn't feel like it's good for your healing, or it's not for you, so let it go. Some people think that if they're grieving, they're not having faith, and they don't believe that their loved one has gone on to something better. And I don't think that's it. That's not it. It's your emotions and your experience and your transition. If there's been a tragedy in your life, you can still be angry, and you can still, oh, I have some comments here. Thanks, Matt. You can still have all kinds of feelings and still be a faithful person. So please be careful who you listen to. Who you listen to should help you feel supported, not shamed, not banished, not embarrassed, none of those things. So please take care of yourself. And don't hide. If someone says anything that makes you want to hide or isolate, connect with the people that matter. And talk to them. Talk to them about your experience. Find safe people. It's really important. Thank you, Matt. Yes, it's very important. You are important. Okay. The psychopharmacological revolution. Now, there's a tongue twister. So our society, like we said, is not a fan of pain. We are not a fan of discomfort. We think that if there's something strange going on with a person, then they're sick. And there's a pill for that. There's a medication for that. Don't get me wrong. I think medications are fantastic. There is so much amazing things out there to support people. And depression and anxiety and other mental illnesses and surgeries and, oh my gosh, so many things are so wonderful. However, I caution you when you're in early grief around using medications. Really think about it. Really discuss it with your doctor. Really listen to yourself on that. Listen to you. Have you had experience in your life in how to mourn? Have you taken the time to mourn? What are the stories you have in your head about what grief is and what mourning looks like? And please try to do some work around that. So I think that we carry grief because our system says, here's the way to fix that right now. And as much as I am a fan of a lot of medications, I'm also a really big fan of taking care of you mentally, changing the way you think and the way you express yourself. So that's just a really big way that our world, our society has helped us carry the grief instead of feeling it. Your feelings, like you have a headache because you're worried about something and you don't talk to anybody about it, then you might just take a Tylenol, right? Like, it's just a way that we've learned to cope with pain that isn't all of the other ways, the talking and all of that. So, please use your discernment again. Pay attention. I think if you're watching these videos, you're probably already doing a lot of paying attention, so I'm grateful to you. Number 7. Contemporary healthcare's focus on efficiency versus effectiveness. So some people would like to think that people can quickly and efficiently overcome grief. This is obviously not the case. A lot of counseling and mental health is based on short-term focus on and brief solution-focused therapies. Now, I myself use those, absolutely, and they're very beneficial. However, grief is something that is much more long-term. So if I am working with somebody and I only have a limited amount of sessions, a lot of it is working on the capacity to have a broader support group, more tools for helping working on their mourning in the future. A lot of it's based on that. If you come across a mental health therapist or helper that's really trying to cure you of your grief, you might want to look for somebody else. We really want to push forward in our society and just kind of erase the slow, messy humanness of being human. And we aren't a quick fix. Like I said, I started learning a lot about grief about 17 years ago. And it's been an ongoing process. And even to this day, I still am like, oh, wow. Like, I didn't realize that was an ouch from when I was little. And then it just kind of shows other things that happened for my own self. So it's ongoing. Humans are beautiful, amazing creatures. And we have the capacity to just keep going and keep feeling. And yeah, I'm a people person. So, yeah. Again, use your discernment. If you have a mental health professional who's helping you and they don't feel like they're helping, or you're not feeling like you're connecting with them, you have all the power to find somebody else. I often tell people, I may not be your cup of tea. I may be chai and you might like green tea. So go find somebody who's green tea. I am not going to be upset. You need to find what fits you. So number 8, we have a constant state of urgency, and this negates our capacity to feel. So the culture we live in really instills within us a constant state of urgency. Like, what's the next best thing? We always have to be going to places and doing things. And when we say, how have you been? Oh, I've been really, really busy. And even with like COVID, it's made us stop and slow down so much. I remember feeling actually kind of relieved at first that I didn't have to go anywhere or do anything. That lasted 2 days. And then all of a sudden, my husband was laughing because I was on Udemy ordering courses. I think I ordered 20 courses because they were on sale. I started working on one like 2 days ago. I just felt this urgency. Oh my gosh, I have to do all of these things now. No. Please slow down. Please slow down. Our society's creation of the next best thing, and you have to be doing something, has been really, really tragic when it comes to our losses. So we'll just take some time. Take some time to slow down. Number 9. This is interesting. I haven't heard this word before, but inability to be in liminal space. That's Liminal. And liminal space is it's that feeling like he talks about being in the wilderness of grief. And when you're in the wilderness of grief, you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. You feel lost, alone, disoriented, and confused. So limina is a Latin word for threshold, the space betwixt and between. The liminal space is that spiritual place where we hate to be, but where the experience of grief leads us. So, since our society likes to get rid of any pain, sadness, anxiety, ambiguity, loss of control, all of the normal symptoms of grieving, the challenge of the griever in this society and time is to allow yourself to be in that space. Be in that space without rushing, without resolving, without getting over your grief. We've been taught that these situations are intolerant and we should find a shortcut. Even in some video games, people are always looking for the shortcut instead of going through the journey. I do that. I can't stand the Lord of the Rings series. I'm sorry. But it's because it's just like running, fighting, running, journey, and I couldn't tolerate the journey part. It's not fast enough. And really the whole story is in the journey. I should probably watch it again because I have a feeling it's about friendship and loyalty and a bunch of other interesting things. We were just like, I don't want to do all that stuff. I just want to jump on the bird that flies me across all of that and takes me to the other end. You don't learn all of the things about each other and about yourself unless you go through it. So those are the 9 things that are reasons why we tend to carry our grief instead of experience it. Next week, I'll be talking about the question, are you carrying grief? And spoiler alert, you probably are. Because we're human and we've had so much transition and so much loss. And I'm really excited and happy that you're here to nourish yourself. I ask that you share this and you have conversations with people about these videos, and that you take the time, even just moments throughout other days, to take care of yourself. Until next week, I wish you well, and thank you again for watching.